Hey, Algebra 2. So we talked about sequences today and writing explicit and recursive formulas. So let's take a look at the first one. I am at home, so this may look a little sloppy in comparison to what I do when I write it on the board, so I do apologize for that. All right, so if I'm wanting to write a formula, I'm going to start by a sub n, and I got to recognize that this is a pattern of multiplication. If you notice, 1 times negative 2 is negative 2, and negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, and 4 times negative 2. So all of these are multiplying by negative 2. That's my ratio. So if I want to write an explicit formula, I say, okay, the first number is 1, and I'm multiplying negative 2 over and over and over, and the power is n minus 1. So what I'm using is I'm referring back to, sorry we had all this today, I'm using this geometric formula here where you start with the first number and you take the value that you're multiplying by and set it to the n minus 1 power. Now that's for geometric when it's more of multiplication or division. Arithmetic is when it's adding and you use a slightly different formula. So that's what I did here. Started with 1, the first number, and the pattern is multiplying by negative 2. Now recursive is when you write it based on the previous term. So basically I'm taking negative 2 and multiplying it times the previous term, which is the idea of a sub n minus 1. So that's number 1. Let's try one that is more linear or arithmetic. So for example, like number 7. These are subtracting 4 every time. And you can find that if you take negative 7 and subtract negative 3, and you get negative 4. So that's like negative 4n. And if I go back in time to figure out what number would have been in front of that, I could add 4 instead of subtracting 4, and you get 1. So that is the number that I need in the back. So I just wrote an explicit formula for an arithmetic sequence. And I can test it. If you plug in 1, you're supposed to get negative 3 since that's the very first number. And so negative 4 times 1 is negative 4, plus 1 is negative 3, and so that works out well. I can try this fourth number. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16, but if you add 1, you get negative 15. So that's working out. So now let's do one that's more recursive. A sub n. I need to know whatever the previous term is, because if you know the previous term, all you'd have to do is subtract 4 from it, and you would have the next term. So I'm going to try to do a few of each one. So I did number 1. Let's back up and try number 2. This is another geometric problem because to get from one number to the next, it looks like you're multiplying by 3. All the numbers are negative, so it started negative, but it's not flip-flopping like in number 1 where you're going positive, negative, positive, negative. So I don't need to say that my ratio is negative. So I'm going to say a sub n equals that first number, negative 2. And now you're going to say, well, that's multiplied by 3 n minus 1 times. So just like what we talked about in the notes, take the first number and write the ratio against it with multiplication, and then make the power n minus 1. Well, if I'm looking at arithmetic, it's like you're taking the previous term and multiplying it by 3. So if you had negative 2, you want the next term, multiply the previous term by 3. And so you do that over and over and over until you get all the numbers that you want in the sequence. So that would be an example of recursive. So let's try another one that is arithmetic. For example, this one seems to be adding 4 over and over and over. So that common difference of 4 is going to have an n with it, with multiplication. And then if I could just go back in time for a second to see, well, what number would have been in front of 29? So instead of adding 4, let's subtract 4. And 29 minus 4 is 25. So you can test it. Plug in 1. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus 25 is 29. And so that is working. It's generating the sequence just as I need it to. So if I'm wanting to build something that's more recursive... Hello, Marley. How are you doing? This is my dog, Marley. She's a good girl. She's going to help me with a homework video. Basically, at the very end here, when you're doing a recursive, you need to kind of describe it as what you would do to the previous term to get the next term. For example, if I wanted 41, you could take the number before it, 37, and just add 4 to it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use that notation that we learned today, a sub n minus 1, and then I'm going to say, well, hey, if you want the next number, take the previous number and add 4 to it. Thank you so much for watching the video. Try the other problems on your own. Looks like you got like 8 more independently to work on, and we'll check your work tomorrow.